Whitney Houston. When you consider that Whitney Houston's discography contains some of the greatest love songs of all time, it seems only fitting that her 1985 self-titled debut album was released on Valentine's Day. Despite Davis's meticulous guidance, Whitney Houston wasn't a guaranteed smash. Released on Valentine's Day in 1985, it would take more than a year to climb to #1 on the Billboard 200, but the final tally adds up to one of history's best-performing debuts. Davis, a mogul who shaped the careers of music legends including Houston, Alicia Keys, Sean Diddy Combs, Carlos Santana, Barry Manilow, Jennifer Hudson, and more, first discovered a 19-year-old Whitney Houston in her gospel singer mother's cabaret act and introduced her soulful sound to the world. After seeing her perform at a Manhattan nightclub in 1983, Clive Davis signed her to Arista Records with a vision to create a crossover superstar. The whole thing took 2 years to record. On and spawned a trio of Billboard chart toppers in the aforementioned Saving All My Love for You, Greatest Love of All, and How Will I Know. The album featured production from Kashif, Michael Masser, Narada Michael Walden, and Jermaine Jackson, creating a sophisticated blend of R&B and pop that showcased Houston's 4-octave range. It was the first studio album by a woman to be certified 10 times platinum by the RIAA, going on to be certified platinum 14 times. Making it the best-selling debut album by a solo artist, the album spent 14 non-consecutive weeks atop the Billboard 200 and earned 5 Grammy nominations, with Houston winning Best Pop Vocal Performance for Saving All My Love for You. Whitney, she followed her debut album with Whitney, 1987, which became the first album by a woman to debut atop the Billboard 200, staying there for 11 consecutive weeks and reached #1 in 14 countries. The pressure was immense following her unprecedented debut success, but Houston shattered expectations and made chart history. With Whitney known primarily as a balladeer, Clive Davis was keen to push her towards a younger demographic and sought out strong up-tempo material worthy of being singles. On lead 7 Inches I Wanna Dance with Somebody, Who Loves Me, is a classic dance floor anthem, while So Emotional introduced a tougher element via its powerful synths and electric guitars. The album produced 4 #1 singles: I Wanna Dance with Somebody, Who Loves Me, Didn't We Almost Have It All, So Emotional, and Where Do Broken Hearts Go, making Houston the first artist to achieve 7 consecutive #1 hits, surpassing the Beatles and Bee Gees. Yet the album was certified diamond by the RIAA and sold over 20 million copies worldwide, cementing Houston as the biggest star in music. I'm Your Baby Tonight Houston entered the 1990s with the release of I'm Your Baby Tonight, which became a global success, selling 10 million units worldwide, becoming the best-selling R&B album of 1991. After criticism that her previous albums were too white, Houston embraced new jack swing and hip-hop influences, working with producers L.A., The Reed, and Babyface. The title track and All the Man That I Need both topped the Billboard Hot 100, making Houston the first solo female artist to have multiple songs from 3 different albums reach #1. The album showcased a tougher, more urban sound with tracks like My Name Is Not Susan and the powerful ballad Miracle. It was certified quadruple platinum in the United States and proved Houston could adapt to changing musical landscapes. The Bodyguard Houston released her first soundtrack album, The Bodyguard, 1992. It topped the charts in every other country it charted, accumulating 20 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200 alone. This watershed moment defined Houston's career and created pop music history. And when the press picked up on the fact Houston was billed as co-executive producer of the album, as well as receiving a writing credit for Queen of the Night and for the vocal arrangement of I Will Always Love You, she was keen to dispel the myth that she'd always been a puppet to the Svengali-like Clive Davis. I Will Always Love You, 1992, from the Bodyguard soundtrack, reaching #1 for 14 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. It still holds the record for the longest consecutive run at #1 by a female artist. Topping the charts in 34 countries and selling 24 million global units, it's the best-selling physical single by a woman in music history and went diamond in the United States. The soundtrack broke sales records, becoming the first album to sell 1 million units in a single week. Global sales reached 50 million units worldwide, making it the 3rd best-selling album of all time. Additional hits, I'm Every Woman, I Have Nothing, and Run to You further dominated charts. The album won the Grammy for Album of the Year and remains the best-selling soundtrack album of all time. The Preacher's Wife Houston's second soundtrack, The Preacher's Wife, 1996, for the film of the same name, went on to sell 6 million global units, while becoming the best-selling gospel album ever. Returning to her gospel roots, Houston delivered a spiritual masterpiece that showcased her vocal instrument in its most authentic context. Houston soars on "I Love the Lord, Who Would Imagine a King" is a regal delight, and when she lets loose on the vibrant "I Go to the Rock" and "He's All Over Me," it's as carefree as we ever heard her. The album featured collaborations with gospel legends, including the Georgia Mass Choir and Shirley Caesar. Now, Step by Step, a reworking of Annie Lennox's song with new lyrics written specifically for Houston, became a top 20 hit. The album peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200 and earned Houston another Grammy nomination, proving that gospel music could achieve mainstream commercial success. Sparkle released posthumously on July 31, 2012, following Houston's death on February 11, 2012. This soundtrack, tied to the remake of the 1976 film Sparkle, marked Houston's final studio recordings. Featuring Houston's last performance, including the duet Celebrate with Jordan Sparks, produced by R. Kelly, the album blended R&B and soul, with highlights like "His Eye is on the Sparrow." The album reached number 21 on the Billboard 200, serving as a poignant farewell to Houston's extraordinary vocal legacy and her dual career in film and music. My Love Is Your Love, Houston released her 4th studio album, My Love Is Your Love, 1998. The album would stay on the Billboard 200 for 2 years and topped the European Albums Chart. Global units of that album reached 10 million. After an 8-year gap since a traditional studio album, Houston returned with her most contemporary and personally revealing work. After devoting most of the 90s to her film career, knocked the release of My Love Is Your Love, her first studio LP in 8 years, was a welcome release for fans and more authentic to Whitney's personality than any of her records had been before. Working with producers including Rodney Jerkins, Wyclef Jean, Missy Elliott, and Lauryn Hill, Houston embraced hip-hop soul and contemporary R&B. The title track, Heartbreak Hotel, featuring Faith Evans and Kelly Price, It's Not Right, But It's Okay, and I Learned From the Best, all became major hits. It's Not Right, But It's Okay won the Grammy for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. The album was certified quadruple platinum and showed Houston could remain relevant in a rapidly changing musical landscape. Just Whitney. After renewing her contract with Arista for $100 million, Houston issued her 5th studio album, Just Whitney, 2002, following it up with One Wish, the Holiday album, 2003, and I Look to You, 2009. This album arrived during Houston's most turbulent personal period, with her marriage to Bobby Brown deteriorating and substance abuse issues becoming public. Coming off the back of the career-rejuvenating My Love Is Your Love era, a hugely successful greatest hits compilation, and a renegotiated record contract that was worth $100 million, the expectations for Whitney's 5th studio album were huge. However, with her long-term mentor Clive Davis replaced at Arista by L.A. Reid and Houston's personal problems affecting her deeply, the album featured What You Lookin' At, One of Those Days, and Try It On My Own, debuting at number 9 on the Billboard 200 with 205,147 first-week sales, while achieving platinum certification and selling 2.5 million copies worldwide. The album was overshadowed by Houston's infamous interview with Diane Sawyer. One Wish, the Holiday album, 2003. Houston's only Christmas album arrived in November 2003, featuring traditional holiday songs alongside original tracks. The album peaked at number 49 on the Billboard 200 and showcased Houston's voice on seasonal classics like Oh Holy Night and the Christmas song. While not a commercial blockbuster, it remains a beloved holiday collection for Houston fans. I Look to You, 2009. The latter of which was her 4th and final number 1 Billboard 200 album and became a global hit. After years of public struggles, Houston staged a comeback with this deeply personal album that addressed addiction, redemption, and faith. Produced by Alicia Keys, Akon, Swizz Beatz, and others, the album featured the title track, $1 Million Bill, produced by Alicia Keys, and I Didn't Know My Own Strength. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 305,000 first-week sales, giving Houston her first chart topper in 27 years since Whitney. Critics praised Houston's vocal abilities, which remained mostly intact despite years of abuse. The album was certified platinum and sold over 3 million copies worldwide, proving Houston's enduring appeal and giving fans hope for a sustained comeback that tragically never materialized.